We're ready? Okay. So that we keep some kind of a schedule here. This is the joint Board of Finance, Board of Selectmen meeting for Tuesday, December 10th, for the purposes of reviewing capital budgets for the various town boards and commissions. So, without further ado, the initial presenter, or, oh, that's not a presenter. Initial, Brad, building maintenance. You're not a presenter, I can't think of the word. Yeah, right, a haircut. You got me,
Yes, I did get a haircut, so for those of you who don't recognize me, I am Brad.
So why don't you just run through your,
We can start with my first initial request for the center building reflashing of the roof. That should be the first item on there for
Okay.
$7,500.
okay,
That's on there, so I took the liberty of
center building.
center building roof. Just put out a couple of quick copies so everybody knows exactly. That's the elevator.
We can share.
That's the elevator shaft. That's flashing. There you go. That's the flashing. It's failed. That's the center building roof. That's the elevator shaft. It's leaking all the way down to the hallway by the center gymnasium. If you look around, for the men's bathroom over there, everybody knows, and there's a handicap bathroom. If you look straight up, you can see the ceiling tiles are stained and the water's running right down the exterior of the shaft into the building. Definitely need a repair. There's probably
You're gonna actually rip the flashing off and
completely off and reflash the whole thing
Flash the whole,
and go out into that EPDM roof.
yeah, well, you're gonna have to
Yeah.
when you flash
Yeah.
it. Okay.
This is something you're gonna do in the spring, or,
In the spring.
too bad you couldn't do it?
Yeah, it's getting kinda cold
Seems like
right
an
now
emergency, yeah.
to go up there. So we'll change the tiles out as an event comes up so nobody sees it, but it's definitely a need to have
Okay.
that done. I believe the next item on there is
Severely rotted wooden fence.
wooden fence. So I also took the liberty, if anybody that doesn't know. Yeah, about the fence, they can take a look. There's the look at the fence. That's the fence around the
The severely rotted fence,
rotted.
not just the
Is
fence.
this a safety issue, is this something that has to be done for safety purposes, or?
Absolutely, there's high voltage inside that fence.
That's-
Yeah, all of our air conditioning, the main unit for the library is within that fence. I can tell you that's a cedar fence, it's 20 years old. Beautiful fence. I've requested half of the amount of money to replace it with a different type of fence, probably PVC,
Yeah.
vinyl. My job is to set up a budget or a limit of $10,000. I will leave it up to the library commission and Jeanette Glicksman to pick out the colors, the decorative ornaments, to tie in with the grove and town beautification. But my main concern, I talked to Jeanette tonight, is to make sure it's extremely durable, it lasts 20 years, and it's maintenance-free. What you're looking at in that picture is not a maintenance-free fence.
I guess not.
Beautiful fence, but not practical.
Okay,
The next item is the HVA repairs at the library, which would be Phase 2 for $121,000. After talking to the contractor today and weeks prior, I think it's in the best interest of the town that I take out that request. I think the unit that we put into the library right now has changed the humidity in the building from anywhere, it ranged from 78% humidity to 88 to 89% humidity. We've dropped it all the way down to 62 and 63%. It ran all summer like that. I see no reason to change out 4 fan control units, 2 on the first floor, 2 on the second floor, when the humidity in the building seems to be just fine. If it becomes a problem and the existing unit fails or needs more work, then I'll entertain putting it back in the budget. But
and this money was coming out of the library fund?
Yeah,
Is it-
we won't have this much left though,
Yeah,
once we pay for the, when we paid for
The
the
first
first price.
part.
yeah, I asked a lot of questions. There's 28 units in the building. Why just those 4? When I know the 4, they work, but the humidity seems to be working quite well.
okay, sounds good.
Really good improvement. I know you're all familiar with Marianne LaRocca's requests I kept it in the budget because she asked me to.
Okay, that's something we'll be talking about.
Yeah, it's. And the one out in 2023 is roof repairs at the town hall. I reduced that. I think over the past few years, it was at 37,000. I'm actually doing roof repairs on the town hall. They were scheduled for yesterday. Out of my own budget, we're gonna do a section of roof. Actually, it's over Jerry Shaw's desk. So I saw no need to ask for 37,000 out there. I dropped it all the way down to 20,000, because eventually I'll have done the entire roof as they fail.
This
And
is regular shingles?
regular shingles, absolutely. So
So they've gotta be, how old?
they range, sections, these two front sections are 2008.
Yeah.
There's two sections that are 2012. There's two sections that are 2003, all before my time. So,
So who does this work? I mean, you gotta strip them off, I'm assuming?
oh yeah, it's all stripped
You
off.
guys do it? I mean, you're,
No, we have a contractor
you
do that.
oversee them?
We oversee them,
Okay.
and we put ice and water shield over
You
the
go down
whole
and play
area,
with- You go down and play with ice and
right?
water
Yep,
shield
the
all
whole
day.
area gets ice and water
Back
shield,
up.
absolutely,
That's right.
yeah.
So one thing for possible consideration is that Beecher needs some roof repair also. And so that maybe we prepare a proposal that incorporates both of these, because that might impact the cost.
Absolutely, we could do that,
So I think trying to coordinate with them and the timing, would be
Okay.
important.
all right.
That's a flat roof though, right?
Well, we have a small section of flat roof up there.
It doesn't matter, it's roofing.
No, I know, but I don't know, it's not, is it as easy to do a small section of a flat roof? I mean,
But there may be an
Well, it depends
efficiency, there
on-
may
it
be
all
an
depends
efficiency.
On what you mean by small section.
Yeah.
If it ties into, if you can flash it properly, it's not bad. If you're tying it
Right.
to the existing roof, it's
You're just
much,
talking
much.
it's just not as,
But as an
It's much
overall
harder.
project,
Yeah.
yeah, of course you could save money that way,
So
absolutely.
just explore that when it comes time to do that. Thank you.
What else is left there?
Ford
Obviously,
van?
the maintenance van is in there. I keep pushing that out, and I keep pushing it out. The van is inspected by the mechanic. I also inspect the van myself. I feel the van needs to be pushed up, I'll push it up, but at this time, the van,
It's running good.
excellent. May not look pretty, but it just needs to get us places.
and it's only used locally, right?
Locally, we go for parts, yeah, it's just a local vehicle.
Okay. Sand
And obviously,
refinish.
sand and refinish the gymnasium floors in there, eventually that will have to be addressed. Sooner or later, it's getting beat up. And last,
What's the main cause of that, Brad, do you
the
think?
gym,
Yeah, is it how
wear
they're
and tear.
using it, or just
it's
normal?
how they're using it, you know, hardwood floors like that coming in with, unfortunately, shoes
Yeah.
straight off the street. And there
Okay.
are more and more programs in that gym. Jeanette had a, what was it, dinner today?
Yeah, the dinner, the
The
living
dinner,
treasure.
that,
Yeah.
dragging tables over the floor, and the
Okay.
existing chairs that we all sit on, the light brown chairs, the folding ones, they no longer have the rubber
Right.
grommets on,
And they
they're
scratch
worn.
the floor, and they
Yeah,
scratch
and you
the
pull the
floor
chair.
as you move around.
Right,
So,
right,
you're down into hardwood, there's very little finish on the floor.
okay,
It's the same with this floor.
right.
Yeah.
I mean, I think at some point it would pay for us to replace those chairs.
Yeah,
I mean, we don't set them up that often,
Mm-hmm.
but it seems like it would be prudent to make that happen.
Or just the grommets. Can we do that?
yeah, we could
Well,
put
the
rubber.
chairs themselves, I mean, everything is really
The
pretty
chairs are
old and
really
beat up.
old. Those are
Oh,
from
those are those
Beecher Road
metal
School,
chair.
Yeah, yeah.
They're, yeah,
old metal folding chairs.
yeah.
We did
On a
replace
rack.
them once.
Yeah.
On the
Oh,
roof.
really?
Remember? They were throwing them out, so we took them
I'm
here.
almost certain.
Okay, and finally, elevator upgrade.
Elevator upgrades.
That thing is working?
It is, actually, we spent quite a few bucks over there this
Yeah,
year.
yeah.
We replaced all the buttons on the, outside the elevator, on the first floor, the mid-floor, and the top floor. All the exterior buttons are done, and all the cab buttons are done. Since we've done that, we haven't had a problem with the elevator since. I've had no complaints that the elevator sticks or gets stuck. And the elevator's inspected annually. They're very strict. They go through that entire elevator.
How about the library? Hasn't the library had problems with their elevator?
That's the
This
elevator
is
I'm
the-
talking
this is
about.
the
Oh, this is the library, okay.
Yeah, the library.
Oh, okay, library
Yeah.
elevator, okay, I got you.
But we did some really nice upgrades.
Because we also have
to it.
one in the center building, don't we?
That's a very old, that's the good old days.
Everything's old.
Elevator, that elevator works great.
It works?
Oh,
Okay.
yeah, it's a great elevator. We never had a
It's
problem
very
with that.
quiet,
Yes.
you know?
Yeah, you can't, it's just old school elevators, and that's it. Unless somebody has any questions of
I think we're good.
anything I could be
Makes noises
helpful
when
with.
it's not even working.
I think we're good. Thank you very much, Brad.
You're welcome, thank you.
Presenter.
Thanks. Have a good night.
You too.
Next comes Adam.
And who's this?
This
Yeah.
is
I should
Adam.
wear a wig with long hair.
Doesn't have blonde hair.
How's everybody doing?
Good, Adam. How you doing?
Good.
How are you?
Good. This should be pretty quick. We've talked about this many times. Starting off with the existing irrigation system at center field. At some time pretty soon, it's gonna need to be replaced. I don't know how old it is. I've been here 20 years. It's easily past that. It could be 30 years old, and we constantly, it seems like every week, every 2 weeks, we're repairing it. It's getting old. Getting old meaning it's getting tired of repairing it. It's due pretty soon.
So what exactly does that entail? In other words, you have to dig the whole thing up, or?
They leave the existing pipe in the ground, and
They
we
do.
just bury new pipe and new wire. And
So
put
they
it,
just, that's why they don't wreck the grass, they just
yeah,
slit it.
yeah, they slit it, actually, they pull it, they agitate
Oh,
it.
so they leave the old stuff there?
Oh, yeah, oh, yeah. And we would like to put a pump on it. Now it's only just, it doesn't have a pump on it at all. It's city pressure. So if you have say if you need it in the middle of the day, it's piddling out, you know? So
Would
that's
you
not good.
imagine that's metal pipe that's there now?
No, it's poly pipe.
It is poly pipe?
It is. And that's poly pipe, you know, has a life expectancy around 25 years. It's done.
Yeah.
And we're constantly
Been there
digging
for
up.
a long time.
Yeah, so,
No, Mika, go ahead.
where's that? What- I'm sorry?
The 10,000 each year?
No, this
I'm gonna
is,
look
to add it up to $6,000 to $50,000, just add every year cumulative.
I know, but when do you propose to do it?
25.
Oh, so you don't,
you
you're
wanna
just
put the
thinking you
money
won't even
aside.
do it till then?
Yes, exactly.
Oh, okay.
Instead of getting,
Not to do any
asking for
pieces.
50,000,
Oh, okay.
as one lump sum.
So you feel we can make it to 2025 with what you have?
I hope so.
If
You
not,
know,
we'll-
You can repair pieces of it
We,
as it
we
goes.
do,
You
but
can,
it's getting,
Yeah.
we're getting tired of doing that, so
more
it's,
of a pain.
you know, and we're watering areas that don't need water. I mean, that's not managing water properly, you know?
If it becomes an emergency, we'll deal
We'll
with it.
do it. But that's what I think, year 2025.
So have we put anything aside for that previously, Tony? Nothing. This is- Starts
No.
this
So
year.
just one clear, the idea is to just take 10,000 each year for the next 5 years and put it in.
Yes.
You know, hold it in reserve and then.
Exactly.
5
Yep.
years replace the whole thing.
Now,
Okay.
what if it fails before then? How long does it take to actually replace it?
Fortunately, you have to arrange a contractor, we gotta pull one out of my hat.
Right, right.
It
So,
could-
so you don't wanna wait until it fails?
No, you don't, and I've asked for a few years now, and I don't know what else to say. I mean, you guys, you know, you have a strict budget, you know, adherence to, and what am I gonna do? I guess around the year 2025, I think it should be replaced.
Okay,
It can go before then, I could Band-Aid it, you know? It's there's no pump on it now, so that's helpful.
okay.
Um,
So
'cause
if
I
a
could just
field,
wrap-
if a field, and excuse my ignorance, if a
Yeah.
field doesn't have this irrigation system, what happens?
It turns brown and it becomes dirt.
Okay,
I
as
gotta
opposed
tell you,
to
like,
grass and.
West River,
Is
not
more-
having a sprinkler system, it's pretty green.
It's pretty green. In the summer, it dries out
A
to
little
like a
bit, yeah, a little
desert.
bit.
The bee's nest, down in West River, oh my God.
The bees, the drier it is, the bees love it. The hotter and
We've
dry.
had bees over here in center too.
Well, you see them. I don't know if you guys seen them at West River. They're called cicada killers. They're massive.
Yeah.
And the drier it is, they love that.
They- yeah,
And they burrow a big
burrow
hole in the
and
ground.
burrow.
Yeah, it looks, I mean, it's 2 inches long. And that thing flies around. I mean, everyone screams and runs for the, you know,
I'll
the
tell you,
hills.
and for having a bad, the center fields are really nice. I mean, you know.
I work
I know
really
you do.
hard at that.
I know
You
you
know,
do,
I'm
but I mean-
constantly syringing throughout the
We
day.
play softball in Orange, we play,
Yeah.
this field is tremendous.
You know, I've gone organic pretty much. I use one product for crabgrass control, and I'm doing certain methods to really enhance the soil which the grass is growing in. In the old days, it was just a foliar feed, it was just synthetic. Now the organics is just wonderful. I think everybody should do this, homeowners, golf courses, the green industry, and I'm living proof. Look at center field, it's magnificent.
Yes.
And even West River is beautiful, and Acorn is magnificent too.
Now, Acorn has sprinklers?
Oh, yeah,
Yes.
that has a well,
Okay.
yeah.
Those are two of the best fields that we've almost had in the state of Connecticut up there.
I mean, it'll have clover on it.
Summertime?
I can't get rid of clover. You need
Yeah.
you know, a herbicide to do that. But there's products you could constantly apply, but they're expensive. So we leave the clover. If, you know, so it's not that bad. So that goes to the second page.
Oh, West River. We were
West
talking,
River.
okay, that's pretty self-explanatory.
Now, this is
This is
from
new.
John Adamovich. You know, you could, this is a kind of a wish list, you know? You know how it is. It's dry as the Sahara Desert. There's bees everywhere like crazy. It's a larger than center field.
Yeah.
It's city water. There's no well down there. It's about $60,000. So,
Yeah, it's a huge, well, you got the three fields.
Three
and
fields.
then the field in
Yep.
between, the empty field.
Did you
Yep.
say it's used more than center as well? I mean,
About
they
the
use it
same.
for soccer,
No,
they
about
use
the
it
same.
Center, they do soccer at Center, they do
Oh,
soccer
yeah.
at West River.
oh yeah,
Said
Monday
West
through-
River, though, there's 3 fields.
7
Three
fields.
that's what I'm
There's
saying,
2
three
over
fields.
here, right.
7 days a week they're going. You know,
Yep.
they're-
Yeah. All right, bleachers at center field.
This is something different. You remember I was doing the concrete
Yeah.
footings on the
Oh,
dugout?
this is in the bleachers you want to
These
do.
are the bleachers I want to do.
Okay.
And Dwight can contest to that. West River is like, you have bees underneath
What it
them.
is, yeah, what it is, it just keeps the bees, plus when it rains, it's not muddy under the bleachers, people are not tracking through the kids or
Right,
whatever,
right.
it just makes it so much, it's easier for maintenance.
Yeah, you don't have to weed
You
whack
don't
it
have
for
to
one.
weed whack, you don't have to.
Small
go
round it,
underneath,
and
right.
you're saving the labor. And it's not that much. And I'd like to do, you know, center field in 21, and probably I'll put it West River in, and then probably ended up at Acorn, and even the Woodbridge Athletic Fields on Pease Road, do them too.
I'm sorry, just to make sure I understand, you're saying concrete, like,
Footing.
A pan.
just a
pan.
footing,
pad, yeah.
a pan, okay, that's what I,
Exactly.
so you're talking the whole
Yeah.
thing.
Put it down, and when it does, it stays perfect.
And we do that in-house. We, you know, dig
Yeah.
out with a backhoe, and, you know, they pour it
Right.
for us and spread it out.
When I think of footings, I'm just thinking of posts, and I was
No, yeah,
wondering
yeah,
that,
no.
okay.
Pad would be a better word.
So the next page, the ball field grooming machine. Here we are.
You keep trying, that's okay.
This has gotta be replaced. And I told you this before, and even Matt said, you buy it, you know. And this is my bread and butter here for the, you know, the Parks Department ball fields. If this goes down, you have to rake them by hand. We can't have this happen.
Right.
You know, and Rob, the mechanic here, he does a wonderful job. Even he said the hydraulic system is done, the motor's done, it's done. It needs to be replaced. So,
Okay.
all right?
Like I said, if it ever did go down, we'd have to buy it, you know. That's why we have contingency. you know?
Exactly.
That's why we're so tight with that.
And the last thing is a parks vehicle. Right now, you can read what it says, it'll have 90+ thousand miles on it. You know, I'll critique that as years go by. But right now, I'll let you know, it's getting pretty close, you know? All right? And
Very good.
that's about it. That is it.
Any questions for Adam? Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Take care, everybody. Have a great night.
Thank you, Ron. Mr. Connors.
Department of Public Works. I think we had a handout now on, yes.
The ordinary forms of the budget. So it's a breakout sheet. It might be easy to follow my requests using that sheet.
Okay.
On the top of that breakout sheet, it's starting with the equipment. And in that, it shows that over the 6-year plan, there's two pieces of equipment that are requested to be replaced, but a reserve is requested to build up to the replacement cost of those vehicles. And given the fact that they are aging and rust is becoming a problem with the backhoe and the loader, they're always out in the salt environment, but the backhoes are on the road almost every day. The backhoe's out there. And the fact that it's a 95, so we can't, I could spike the budget and make the request in 1 year, but they're still operational, so we'll keep pushing it along until, it's prudent to replace it. But the mechanic brought the attention that the cab mounts are starting to fail, and if we're gonna dissect the machine enough to put a cab on, it's almost cost prohibitive to do that. So, a reserve buildup, moving out until we can acquire enough funds to fund the machine, that's what my goal is.
Now, the road sweeper, do we have that? Are these payments we're gonna be making on that?
It's a lease payment.
Right, okay, so we own that.
We
This is-
have it,
th-
and
So this 55, that's the finished.
the requests are to
We've already,
fund that over
acquired
the
that.
span of the lease.
Right.
Correct.
So tell me, what is a sign retro reflectivity upgrade mandate? What is
Have
that?
you seen the bigger signs out? And you can explain it better than I
Yeah.
can, but there's a mandate for.
Several
larger
years
signs.
ago, the federal government came out with a mandate that signage has to have retroreflectivity. Basically, nighttime when you're driving, you see the vibrancy of some of the signs. When the headlights hit it, it brings that light back to it to make the sign more attentive to the driver.
Oh, okay.
And we have not, we replace signs, but it's not, there's different programs to follow, and we have not been abiding by that. I keep putting that request in, but sooner or later, we're gonna have to start that program. We just can't randomly replace signs. It's not so much speed limit signs, but any warning sign. Stop ahead, stop signs, the speed limit signs themselves, no parking signs and things like that, we don't need them. But a lot of the signs, right out in front here, you'll see some of the
The
upgrades,
state, the
crosswalk
state's done
signs.
some of them, right?
I'm sorry?
The state's replaced some of the signs, haven't they?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so you'll see that in the school zones, you'll see the pedestrian crossing, and you'll see the sign column itself, the support column.
got like
It's
a
got the reflective
reflective
strip going
strip
down
on
it.
it, right.
So it brings your attention to it.
Yeah.
So the funding for this is to, we don't have an actual accounting of, well, we do, but we have assigned a cost to it to replace all of the signs. And we can take it, instead of going signs by age, which that's one method, I think the prudent method in our case would be to just take a section of town at a time and upgrade them.
Okay.
So since you plan on doing this over a number of years, and it's 5,000 per year, shouldn't that be part of your operating budget as opposed to?
No,
capital?
because of the cost, it's probably gonna exceed 5,000, but, without having any funding there now, because my operating, it's very low, but those signs are for street signs, they're for the, construction signs, detour signs, men working signs, those types of, signage. So, it would exceed, I put a baseline of 5,000 because we have nothing to reference what the actual cost would be.
Warren, I'm sorry, well, why is that?
Federal
I mean,
mandate.
No, I'm saying, well, why is it that we can't quantify it? Only because, I
Well,
mean,
we
we know
have,
what signs need to be
we have an
replaced.
inventory, but we haven't looked up the actual replacement cost.
Costs for that. Okay. So we can find it out
Oh, yeah, we could find
determine
it,
whether
yeah.
or not this is
Yeah, that number may be
substantially
very,
less,
very,
or,
it may be very, very soft,
that's what I'm saying.
yeah.
Okay.
But
Seems like it would be
with
worth
that,
knowing
with that being the fact, my side of this would be to extend it out further rather than fund it higher. That way there, we have a baseline to follow
I understand.
without a spike from my requests.
Thank you.
Is there any, I mean, you said it's a federal mandate. What happens if we haven't done it by a certain date and
Oh,
there's an
we've
accident or
passed
something?
that deadline.
I mean, are we,
Didn't you hear they took your license away? You didn't know.
This came down like in 2013.
so, but we're not at any risk, I'm sure.
Well, you're at risk from libel if there's ever an issue. A senior drives off the road or misses a curve or something like that, and we have it.
I'm a little nervous about this.
Well, that's,
Bringing it up in a pub. Yeah,
but
right.
we can't address the entire town. And then there's other methods of approach, is you have to send personnel out, you take a retro reflectometer, you check the sign, the actual reflectance of the sign, because how the sign faces, you know, if it's north-south,
Right, or
east-west, they're gonna fade more. A visual assessment could do that without spending the money on the thing. But I think if we choose to do sections of town, and we don't have to say every sign gets done, but then you'd inventory when that sign was replaced.
Are other, I'm sorry, do
No,
you,
no,
are other towns also behind in doing
Yes.
this? That's sort of a general
generally.
practice.
We upgraded our street signs years ago, and that was a big hit with a lot of the residents, because when they drive at night, they can see the
Can see where it is,
reflectance,
yeah.
Yeah.
you know. I had actually people stop in my office and say thank you because they can find their home now, because there's not enough,
And,
street.
Tony mentioned the federal payment for some of them. Has the federal government done all of the, or the state, has the state done all of the state roads where it should be done, or are they behind also?
Oh, they're behind.
Okay.
They're always
Everybody's
behind.
fine.
They're always
Yes,
behind.
everybody's fine.
You're
fine.
We're
I
safe.
mean, where their
Yeah.
focus is the high, sensitivity, like the school zones, and that's why there was money allocated for that.
Good.
We capitalized on that. You can go around town by the firehouse and the high school, and Beecher Road School, you can see that signage being replaced.
Yeah, no,
In
they're great.
communities
good
where that
signs.
signage, or any crosswalk, you can drive through it, it's like almost sign bombardment, because you'll see that reflectance continually, but it is, my wife doesn't like it because she says it's too much of a glare. You know, the headlights refract back at you, but it depends on the angle. Technically, it's a percentage, they use a normal vehicle, like the headlight of a truck is up much higher, so the angle of reflectance is different. But the sign is manufactured with a degree of reflectance, and it's kind of like prismatic if you look at it from a reality. And that prismatic depends on your approach. As you get closer to or further away from the sign, it's gonna have different reflectance.
Thank you.
Can you give me a ballpark roughly how many, I mean, how many signs are we talking about here?
I haven't addressed that total number.
I wasn't
but-
asking first, but I mean,
But it's significant.
okay.
We're talking about stop signs too and everything, or?
Stop signs, but we replace those,
Yeah, cause I've seen
When-
stop signs with the lights around them, the lights that blink.
they have
And
those,
they have the solar
Well, we've
option,
tried a
and
lot
I
of
didn't know if
different
this
things.
was part of the program there.
no, that might be communities that wanna, well, you can invest in them if you have a, let's say, an intersection which is problematic.
Right.
And you
No, I
wanna
was just
bring
curious, 'cause
more
I-
attentiveness to the stop sign. But we've tried plastic ones that have they're more resilient to the weather, they don't fade, they will crack, but then you get vandalism. You know, we put signs up on certain roads with the, post strips on them, and they get stolen. And when you have a car accident, if you don't inventory some of that stuff, you can't replace it immediately, so. But the broader scope of things is just the warning signs. That's where the emphasis is, because primarily for senior drivers, the nighttime driving, but you do have a certain accutiveness on the sign during the day as well, but it's focused on nighttime driving.
Okay. Any other questions on the equipment portion of the Public Works? Okay. You wanna just go through I think the trucks are pretty self-explanatory. You just wanna run through them, Paul?
Yeah, the same thing,
Adam?
A presenter.
Brad,
that's all right, you didn't call me Brad.
I'll
so
run
that's
through the
all
whole spectrum here. Tony?
right. Well, basically in this year, because we currently don't have a Mason truck, we got rid of our Mason truck years ago, but we do have a need to have one and a pickup truck, that's in this current year. And then going out, it's like almost every other year, it's a pickup truck and then the replacement of a large truck. Until you get out to the year, 25, the number goes up because that's a 10-wheeler.
Sorry, can I ask another dumb question? What's a mason truck?
It's a small body dump truck. Like any other dump truck, but the size of it. It's a little bit bigger than a pickup truck,
But a little bit smaller.
but yeah, we call it a mason truck because of the style of body that's on the truck. But it's a small dump truck.
Thank you.
Any other questions on that? Okay, and the other part of your capital, of course, is roads, $850,000 a year,
Yep.
and, bridge and waterway reserve, $50,000 a year, which has been in there forever, so.
Well, there's, both of these, obviously, the road budget, there's consistencies with that. The request is kinda pretty straightforward. I've still got almost 10 miles of road that are not asphalt. There's some other surface in town, so moving out, we'd like to address those. But roads that were already done in 1999, we partially addressed those this year. But moving forward, it's a reoccurring thing, as, you know, you get degradation, and if you don't follow some kind of a program, the degradation curve creeps up on you, and it costs a lot more than what the
Are you
request is.
still doing crack sealing, or did you stop?
Crack sealing was part of my operating budget, but that's now built into the capital budget,
Okay,
and if the budget gets reduced, that becomes the sacrificial element.
ah,
The other thing is because of the amount of tree work that's in town, in the operating portion of the budget, that was like a go-to item.
right.
It was also not as critical to safety, so, yes, but crack sealing is something that should be part of the program.
Okay.
As far as the waterways reserve, we have, you know, obviously there's drainage situations, but we also have, professionals that are doing stormwater inventory for us, and their costs, come out of a portion of this, but you always have, some kind of a waterway issue. And, this kinda incorporates any drainage swales, cross culverts. It wouldn't entail cost for a bridge, because obviously the cost is too light for a bridge replacement.
Yeah. And what, Tony, do we have about $5,000 in that fund now?
Remaining?
Yeah, okay,
Couple, there's like $4,000 or $5,000 remaining.
okay.
Yeah, we've been utilizing it,
Yeah, no,
so.
that's
Yeah.
the point.
Yeah.
It does get used.
Any other questions for
Yeah, I
Warren?
just wanna go back to the asphalt.
Yes.
When we bid it next year, for the milling and the paving, can we do that in a much quicker time period? Roads are milled and they stay that
Well-
way for 4-6 weeks.
That's not the norm, that's
No,
an
but I'm-
abnormality that
Yeah,
happened
but
this year.
Acorn Hill was like 5, and when I used to.
Normally,
go up-
we're
when I-
on-
When I went up to the transfer station, I would catch, people would ask, when is it gonna be done?
Well,
Let me comment on that.
there's several things, if I
Let
could
somebody
comment on.
be
So
that.
I was just,
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
So, the last few years, particularly this year, we went with the state contractor. And when you go with the state contractor, you're sort of at their schedule, correct?
Yes,
Yeah, so, when we've done it previous to that, we've gone out to bid ourselves, and we had more control over the timing of the two processes, that's probably
Correct.
correct, right?
So that was just one
We
of the
saved a
things,
little
'cause
money
it's
on the
just-
state contractor, but it was at the expense of a gap between the two
we
services.
found out that the past 2 years using the contract because it is the state contract, and they're gonna service the state.
Right,
So they'll kinda use all the municipalities that gang onto it as a gap filler.
Right, that's the thing.
Now, when the road was initially milled up there, the intent was to get in there within a couple of weeks. I had communications with the company. The company didn't oblige us and fulfill their obligation to come here. So it wasn't like a planning mistake.
No, but it's just something that
Right.
we can't leave roads
Well,
milled like that
you-
for an
But you
extended
have to
period of time,
understand
that's
that
all.
milling it's a grooved pavement, but it's a rideable surface. It might not be aesthetically, and you're gonna feel a vibration. But like in this case, we took 1.5 inches off the road surface. The road surfaces that we milled we're
But
in
there
more
are-
deplorable
But there
condition.
are extended, there's objects sticking up from the road, there's grates and all that are up. People run over them, because even though they're painted yellow,
demarcated,
I know
and-
they're
and we
marked
put-
and
we put
whatever, but
signs
it's
up that
just-
it's a construction area and things like that.
I just
mean,
wanted to pass it
Yeah, well,
along, that's all.
we're gonna consider
I
that
just wanted to
extra
pass, because it
ordinance,
is,
yeah.
it's something we
Yeah.
should really
Dwight,
look at.
It was
the
noticed,
department
yeah.
and the staff, myself, were completely aware of that,
You know, no, I just, right, I understand.
you know? And when you try to address those issues with the public, you don't wanna leave things like that, but the writing surface that was left was actually better conditioned than the road was. So when you plane it off, there is, uniformity in it, but it's much more rideable and passable than the existing road.
Right, unless you've got two cars passing each other. Because that was
Well,
the issue I had at the same
look,
time.
you can have that on an everyday
No, but if
occurrence.
you've got the raised surfaces, like Dwight was saying, a number of times where I'm going up there, I had to actually almost slow down to a stop, so I didn't actually hit the drain.
Yeah, you
And I
had to
could
go
see it,
around
'cause
it
it's
and try and
orange,
go
but
around,
again,
whatever, just-
You would've just driven right over it, but, and you know.
I have to
that's
say to
going
you
both
that
directions.
it's more intimidating because you see it, because it's different than the road.
No, I would've hit it.
But the lip going into your driveway is no different than the raise on the structure. So
Yeah.
physically, you're not gonna do the damage to your vehicle.
Okay,
Okay,
so you're working on
Yep, good.
it. Any other questions? Warren, thank you very much.
You don't wanna go waste management?
Hope you have a very calm,
Waste management.
oh, I'm sorry, hope you have a very calm winter with the,
I do too.
Public Works. Okay. How's the scale doing?
So far, it's operating good.
Good.
You know, we're getting everybody, trained on the operation, so we have backup, operators up there. And, I think everybody is getting acclimated to the use, and, towards the end of the year, we'll have some information to generate to see how things are going.
Any pushback from the haulers?
Initially,
everything
because
goes okay.
it's a change of
Right.
operation.
Yeah, and I haven't heard that they're going out and increasing the rates on Woodbridge residents, so.
No,
And that was the concern that we had.
Right.
But they weren't doing that in the other towns, so they were charging the other towns as much as they were charging
So have they increased the rates?
us.
Mine increased my rate.
Right.
Yes.
And the other thing, we have the credit card scanner up there now for payable, so that is working out both from the permit.
Credit cards, like when somebody drops something off?
If you're gonna pay, instead of coming here and
Oh.
estimate,
That's good to know.
it's an actuarial, so a resident can be weighed and pay for the weight.
Okay.
And it's, they like the fact that they can use their credit card, because like on a Saturday, if we're not open for a permit, or the guesstimation of the quantity, it works out best for everybody, so the
Good.
credit card scanner's getting used.
Yeah.
Good.
Nice, yeah.
The, in the waste management is pretty straightforward,
Yeah.
there's
Compactors,
funding, and basically this is for compactor replacement, which
containers.
has always been an issue that we've, tried to work on. And then, and also, a container replacement out in the year, '23.
Okay.
I
Any
guess,
questions on
just
that?
one quick question, I guess it's probably unrelated, but I remember talking about, maybe it was last year, about the recycling. How 50% of what ends up getting recycled ends up just getting thrown into,
That's correct.
That, yeah,
Yeah,
so, and,
that's roughly.
so where are we with that now? Is that,
It's a statewide problem.
we're still making everyone sort, and you
The
can tell, you
DEP.
see pizza boxes in.
The state requires you to sort and to do single stream recycling, but when you take it to the plants, the contamination of the recycling is such that some of it gets diverted to the waste stream.
Right, it was like 50%.
Yeah, I'm not sure on the percentage, but
I
it's
think
a
it was
significant
up there.
percentage.
So,
Yeah.
and is there no option for us to just
The
start
glass
separating out
primarily.
the glass and just taking it in two different, containers?
That's how we used to do it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Is there any
I mean-
value in doing it?
yeah.
well, there's no market for us for the glass, and that's why it changed. And we had the cardboard, we used to keep the, what we call flat board or corrugated. It used to be folded and stacked in the container, and I didn't introduce that because the state had a tendency to always change their mind. and revert back. Our weights were probably up higher when we did that, but the convenience of separation, you know, people just putting everything in one single stream container. Right now, there's still a lot of questions. In fact, I think it's tomorrow, they're working on something about changing the recycling regulations. And a lot of it is overseas, you know, where our products are going, what's accepted, what's not. The glass, there was talk of separating glass by color again, and using that for different purposes. But they're so undecided that we have to wait and see.
Okay, I was just curious.
So there's nobody buying glass?
Not specifically. If the market was strong enough, we'd go back to what we did. We used to grind up there,
Right.
and we'd separate it by color, clear, green, and brown. So, but the market dried up, the same thing with paper, was the same thing there. So, but I think at our disposal, there's certain contractual things where we have to bring,
Yeah.
for disposal, so our recyclables have to go there. And if we don't bring certain percentages there, then we get another penalty, so you have to.
We're at like $62 a ton for garbage and $78 a ton for recycling.
Okay, so we're losing money on recycling.
So we pay $78 a ton to get rid of it, and then it
Right.
goes to the burn plant where it's $61 a ton.
Half of it.
And that
Yeah,
could be
so-
because,
so
Figure out the math
basically,
on that one.
If we took out the glass, which is the heaviest recyclable.
That would be a big help,
Okay, that
yes.
would be a really big help. We send it to the regular trash, because that's where it
Not
ends
sure
up
we-
anyway.
I'm not sure we can, but that's a different issue. We're part of
Yeah,
a,
the
we're part of a
guidelines-
multi-town, group that's looking into this and trying to figure out a way to accomplish that.
Okay, cause that to me would make the most sense.
but the federal
We don't wanna throw it
guidelines
into the
dictate
recycle
you
bin
can't
anymore.
throw it away, you have to recycle.
Right, that's the guidelines that we're.
Yeah, but they're throwing it away, instead of us.
And Warren, did I
And
hear
we're
you
paying
in the
for it.
contract
Right.
that we have, so if we
More.
don't have X amount of corrugated cardboard in that bin, we get penalized or something along those lines?
No, well, we can't dispose of it just without, like everybody was saying, just throw it in your waste.
Because of the state regulations
Correct.
regarding.
Right,
Correct.
and like pizza boxes, if they're contaminated with oil, they can't be processed.
Right.
So those should be thrown away.
Right.
And,
They tell you
and
that.
that's what Tom was saying, that there's a certain percentage of contamination, and that has to be segregated, so that in fact would be thrown away, not necessarily on our end.
But my understanding, because it's an area of interest of me, that if we went back to corrugated cardboard separate stacked, that you can actually, people will want that. Is that something we could go back to, because that's something that?
To my knowledge, there's only one municipality in the state that does that on their own, and I don't know what they're doing from a market perspective, and I think that's Norwalk.
There's some places across the border in New York that are doing,
Right, they do it on their
specifically
own and do it, and basically, we would not have abandoned it, but the market dried up, there was no incentive
What's
from
only
the
under
cost.
obligation to do single stream recycling
On the state level, yeah.
at the state level?
It goes federal, state, it trickles down, yeah.
You know, I think one thing that might be helpful, this isn't for you, Warren, but is educating townspeople again. It's always confusing about recycling. I don't know if everybody knows, don't recycle your pizza box, because that might have and some kind of, town education.
That's-
So the
something to think about.
sustainability committee is working on this,
Oh.
is looking at that. to
We
do
have
that.
But we do
flyers
it
out.
periodically, and you
Right.
can't do it enough.
Yeah, that's exactly.
The state website, there was, let's say, a mistake on their part, they didn't clarify pizza box recycling. We have flyers, our website indicates that, and we direct people, you know, and if the attendants see the stuff, and if the haulers that collect privately bring it up there, they're informed. They have to inform their clients.
The other thing is that the link that, is on our town website to the state is very easy to use in terms of you just put in the item, you can put in the sprayer part of a plastic bottle, you know, and that the site will tell you whether or not it's recyclable. And they tell you, no, you need to throw it in the trash.
But people have to know that too.
Well, no, I
Right,
understand.
yeah.
But I think we have to
understand.
educate folks now
Right.
that if in fact, as we're talking about, recycling is costing us more than household
It is.
trash, then there
Yeah.
should be an incentive for people to start looking at what, if we contaminate it. Which then brings up another question, and we always say it has to be clean and dried, because if it's wet, it gums up the sorting machine, but our bins are open to the elements, so isn't all of our bins therefore?
Well, I
not
don't think
clean?
it's water, it's just like, let's say you have orange juice and you don't rinse the bottle and then that sticky substance is there. So that's.
Soda.
Right, sodas, the sugary things.
Okay. So you,
It's just a good example of. we all
Straws
know
is the big thing that they're
Sure.
talking about now.
Okay. Anything else? Thank you, Warren.
Okay,
Thank you.
Thanks, Warren.
just a note for everybody, we did take receivership of one of the trucks yesterday.
Congratulations.
We still have to, get the components installed on it, but it's a step in the right direction.
One of two.
Yes,
Is that a plow truck you're talking about?
yeah,
Yeah.
thank
Sean, are
you.
you ready, or are you waiting for?
I'm ready.
You're waiting for recruits? Okay, good, you're early and we're early.
Yeah. 8 o'clock.
At least you're walking up this year, Sean, last year you rolled up.
I know, I had surgery last year, so,
Yeah.
okay.
Right,
All right, I don't know what the first one you have is, I have engine seven
Continued
up.
payment of trucks, I'll call them off and then you can search for
Sure.
it. So this is just a continuation of engine 7.
Yes, the
Last
last
payment?
last payment on this truck.
Oh, then you don't, then we own it. Next, engine 3, replace,
Engine three is the one we ordered.
that's the one you're expecting?
Yep,
or-
and it's, gonna be coming in March of 2020,
Right,
so
so
this
this one
March
is,
coming
So then
in.
you can evaluate at that time whether you wanna pay to make the payment, you know.
Yeah.
We'll have
Or
to
we
pay
could
it
pay
out,
it
we'll have
at
to pay
the
it out
end in a year,
yeah.
so it might not hit until actually FY 22.
Okay,
Depends on when we pay it.
Yeah.
so that one's coming. So that, this has all been talked about.
Yep,
Next is, this is also a continuation on the air packs?
Yeah.
yes.
Okay. And again, you've got these, we're just paying on them.
We're just
You've already
paying
got
on it, yep, we got them, this is just the payment. And I think we have this payment and one more payment to do after this. We go one more year.
Right, correct,
It's a
yeah.
4-year lease.
Next is engine 9.
Engine 9 is the one we're gonna be coming to you guys soon on. That's the 1995 E1. That truck, we replaced engine 7 at 24 years old. We had catastrophic failures with that truck, and we had to order it, and it takes, right now, the build time on an engine like this is anywhere between 12 and 16 months. So even once we give the go-ahead, by the time we take delivery on the truck, we're at least 12 to 16 months out, and then our payment could be 26 months out
I
from
was
now.
gonna say, it won't hit in 21 then, right?
No,
No, it
It
won't
won't.
hit, it won't hit really probably until realistically 23.
All right, so we should change this.
yes.
I put it in there because it's hard for us to come up with a capital budget for you guys,
Yeah.
because it's a truck that we need to order this year, but if I show it out in FY 23, it
Yeah,
looks
yeah,
like
yeah,
we're not
yeah.
gonna order
You're
it
not
until
gonna order.
23,
Okay, well, we'll make a note of that.
okay?
Chest compression, I think we've talked about this.
We talked about this last year.
This is the new one you wanna get.
This is the new up-to-date one, which we should replace, and, this goes on the fly car that goes to all medicals in town. So it's time that we should upgrade this, even though it's not going on the fire department apparatus, it is gonna go on emergency apparatus for the town.
What's the value of this one?
What's the
reason for going to this?
So the other one's I think a 2012, 2013. This one has a couple other added features. You could actually set the depth of the chest compression, and you can change the settings on it where you can have it work more toward the patient, where the other one is more generic. This one has a couple more added options, and they could do a printout on the after they use it, and you can see what the device did at the hospital and stuff like that. So there's added features to it that they didn't have back in 12 and 13.
Now, does AMR carry these things around too?
No, so Orange had one, they put it on their medic unit, and then we followed suit, I wanna say about a year later. And, the association actually purchased this through some fundraising, and we put it on, medic, 44 at the time, which is 54. So what we'd like to do is purchase this one, put this one on the medic unit, and then take the other one and stick that on one of the engines that we have.
So how long, if someone's lying on the ground, how long does it take to hook them up to this thing?
It should be about 30 seconds.
Really?
Yep. It's a board, it slides underneath, it snaps on, you bring the suction cup down, you set your depth, you hit the button, and it starts pumping. What's good about it is it gives constant chest compression. So you want to do a chest compression about 2 inches deep, so this thing actually constantly pumps at that site. So if you go to move the patient or you're on soft ground, the board in the back is giving, it's depressing the chest just enough, and it's giving just enough pumps the way it should be to give somebody the best chance of survival,
I know a
rather
lot
than
of
doing
times they
hand
say that
compressions.
when you're doing it manually, you start cracking ribs.
Right, you're gonna crack, you'll crack ribs with this.
You will,
But
okay.
this is just consistent, and it's at the right timing. So rather than you standing over and about a minute and a half in, people start getting tired doing it, so you're not getting the full depth you should be, where the Lucas device actually is doing the correct depth every single time, and it's doing the correct, at the correct time, how many compressions it should be going and doing.
Is there an age limit shown in this?
There's not. We actually replaced the batteries about a year and a half ago. We replaced the batteries. It goes for maintenance. It does everything we're supposed to do with it.
Okay, and what about like an age limit on the actual?
The patient.
The patient. I wasn't sure.
No,
What you
there's
meant,
not.
that's
Oh
what-
yeah. I'm sorry. I thought it was.
Answer, it's
Yeah.
okay.
No, there's not an age limit. Usually you wouldn't use it on a baby because you would have to hold
Yes.
the baby or toddler. But no, we've used it on. They've used it on 60, 70, even 80-year-old people.
And what about little kids though? I mean, it's like 5 or 6, can you use it on? that?
Depends on the size of the. Depends on the size, but yes.
Okay.
They have different cups that go on, and you can change the depression. So like an adult, I want to say it's 2 inches. Don't hold me to this. I think it's 2-inch depth. For a child, it's 1.5 inches.
Okay.
So you'd set that on the setting, and the unit, and when you bring the suction cup down, the unit is smart enough to know where it stops, and it needs to go another 1.5 inches down.
Okay. Thank you.
So explain to me now, AMR gets there first.
Yep.
They start themselves?
If AMR gets there, if the medic's toned out, AMR gets there, the medic pulls this unit out and hooks it up and starts the compressions, and he can start doing IVs and other things while the ambulance is en route to get there to transport. So it's actually another set of hands. Instead of the medic or cop sitting there pushing, the medic could be pushing drugs, and the medic could be setting IVs up, and doing everything he needs to do, hooking them up.
So this is going
to
on,
an
this,
EKG.
we're gonna buy this and put it on an AMR vehicle?
We own it, so
Yeah.
just like we own the other one, AMR doesn't own it, we own it, we stick it on the unit, it's labeled Woodbridge Fire Department.
Doesn't AMR schlep over in other places?
That's a whole nother conversation.
Which we're gonna talk about, right?
Yep. So,
So in
we
other
could
words, you put
definitely
it on
talk
this
about
truck,
that,
and this truck-
that's an hour
That could
conversation.
go anywhere,
Yep.
right.
It could go to Bethany, it can go to Orange, it can go
And
wherever.
then another truck comes and doesn't have one,
Correct,
I gotta get my chest broken 16 different ways, okay.
you got it.
All right.
So there's no.
And it's not consistent,
And there's no requirement that an ambulance carry this?
no. No.
'Cause you could do it
This
by
is
hand.
you could do it, you could do a hand, this is
Right.
just another set of hands.
And it doesn't get tired.
Right.
So I vividly recall when you brought this in and demonstrated this when you got the one in
Mm-hmm,
2013, if I'm not mistaken.
right.
Was anybody here?
I was
when that
here,
happened? Yeah, and, I mean, not for nothing, it was breathtaking. I don't mean that in a joking way. I mean, you could see how.
What's nice is you could put somebody on the board while you're moving them, to the ambulance, it's kinda
Right.
hard to do compressions.
Right.
Where this, as long as it starts doing compressions, you can slide them onto a board, you put
Right.
them on the stretcher, and this thing
Right.
consistently
Yeah.
keeps doing compressions all the way to the hospital.
Yeah,
And you don't take it off until you get there,
Right.
unless the patient starts to breathe.
So is there a way that we could ask the other towns to also do the same thing? If the ambulances are being shared amongst the towns?
and an AMR
Can't
issue,
imagine,
and
why
town
wouldn't
issue.
AMR equip their, why wouldn't AMR?
Cause they're
equip-
expensive.
Oh, they're expensive to take you to the hospital. I mean, you know, they charge you a fortune to transport you, and you have it on your vehicle, for God's sakes. I don't know why we've got to, you know.
Cause they're not required, so it's a business decision.
And there's no way to keep it on a Woodbridge vehicle?
Technically, Medic 54 is a Woodbridge vehicle.
Right.
You contract out with it, that vehicle should stay in town.
Right,
Well, we're gonna be
And
having,
that's
that's gonna be another
issue.
conversation we're gonna be having.
Totally other issue.
Yep.
Okay,
We've been talking about this, so.
okay.
Okay,
Okay.
aerial truck, I think that's.
The aerial
all for
truck
storage,
is still gonna be a year
all
out.
right? How's that
right
one
now.
you bought working? It's working good?
It's working really well.
Good.
Yep.
Replace fire marshal vehicle.
So the fire marshal vehicle, it's a 2008 Expedition. We'd like to replace it. It's got body rot. It's having mechanical issues. The head gasket is going. There's transmission issues with it. But it is a 2008 vehicle. It's got over 100 and almost 130,000 miles on it. So
That was my question.
So that's-
it is due up for replacement.
So that's 13,000. Would it, can you lease one of these things, or?
Could.
Specialized vehicle, I mean, the layout.
You can, it
It's gonna be
it
tough
doesn't
to
really
lay out
pay, it doesn't really
70,000.
pay to lease because you have to cut the car apart and put all the gear in it
Yeah.
and lighting packages and everything else.
Yeah.
You're better off just buying it. And these vehicles that when we buy them, like the chief's car, the assistant chief's car, the fire marshal's vehicles, these vehicles are lasting us 10, 12 years, so.
You could
It's
lease it
not,
like, you wouldn't lease it like you lease a car, but you could lease it like you would lease a truck.
Right,
Yes,
that's what I'm
lease to
saying.
buy, yeah.
Yeah.
Yep,
Rather than trying to come up, you know, obviously, it's a tough year,
Yeah,
come up with $70,000, so.
right.
We gotta look at more creative ways.
yep.
And finally, a rescue boat.
So the rescue boat, this is a boat we've had since actually '98. We use it for water rescues. We use it in the winter, even on the ice. We'll slide it out on the ice, so in case the ice is thin and you drop in, you could bring your gear out. You could put whatever you had to put in the boat out. We use the boat for training actually, and we have multiple holes in it from dry rot and this and that. This would be almost like I want to say they call it like more of a flat bottom boat, where it doesn't, it's an aluminum boat. It's not more of an inflatable boat where we have leaks with it and dry rot, and the boat should last us hopefully another 20 plus years. It does have a motor on it, just like the other one did. Motor's easily removable. It clicks on, goes on, and it sits on a trailer just like the other boat does. So we need to replace it. It's aging and we have multiple issues with it. We can't even use that boat right now as it stands.
It's hard not to ask what the demand for that is, or what the use of that is.
Honestly, the boat probably goes out only 2, maybe 3 times a year. But when you need it, you need to be able to get the gear
Essential.
out and everything out. It's essential. You don't really, there's not really another option to get out. And believe it or not, Woodbridge actually has a lot of water in town.
Yeah, there's a lot of
Lake
ponds,
Chamberlain,
lakes,
Lake Dawson,
river.
all
Big
these
basin.
lakes, they're actually quite big. Even we had a few years ago, probably about 6, 7 years ago, we had that lady that went out
Oh,
with
yeah,
Knowles Pond.
Out into Knoll's.
And just to get out there was an act of God, and it just killed the guys. But if we put her onto the boat and we put the gear onto the boat, you could drag the boat out there, and just dragging gear out and everything else would make life a lot easier. So this is not something new. This is something we've had, and it needs to be replaced.
Anything else for Sean? Thank you.
Thanks, Sean.
Thank you.
Thanks, Sean.
All right, Board of Selectmen.
I just wanna make a statement.
Don't push
Radio
it, Sean,
sys-
don't push it.
All right. The radio system.
Went well tonight.
Yeah. The radio system's working really well, so
That's great.
I wanna thank you guys for, once again, for approving the system. I know it was a big dollar number, but system's working really well. We're actually in the process of changing over to digital, so we should be digital in the next, probably hopefully 2 months. But the system itself is working great, and it's legible,
Good.
so, thank you.
Thanks, Sean.
Tony, you doing Board of Selectmen?
I can do that, yes.
Not much.
It's pretty,
Tony, it might be an appropriate time just to say that Beth is not here only because
Yeah, she's ill.
she's very ill.
Yep.
So she did wanna be here. and she's out ill.
Okay, so sidewalks.
Sidewalks is, the request to, upgrade the sidewalks in town to, concrete that are in the center of town, that are existing asphalt sidewalks, including an installation of a sidewalk from here to Amity High School, which,
He's still my
you know.
part.
Part of this is, part of this is, includes the, so if you do nothing else, I think that's the biggest priority, is a sidewalk to Amity High School.
Like,
Well, yeah.
explain to me, where are we talking about here? Sidewalk, Amity High School.
Is it gonna be on the church property?
We have to work out the details, but yes, it'd probably be on that side of the road.
Right.
And it would go down the
And then
road,
the
and then the crosswalk will cross the road.
Does it go
Because
down
the-
to the fields, or how far are we extending it, do you know?
No, I think it would just go to the end of the,
Yeah, the point is just to be able to get from the high school
right,
to the center of
to
town.
the center of town.
Well, because the girls.
The girls
soccer
use it for,
team,
right, they use the soccer
They
team, use
walk
it.
They
back
walk.
and forth
Yeah, and if
every
we have a
day.
transition program, then the
Right.
kids could walk
Transition
actually
program,
from
right.
Amity to.
Right.
And they walk on the church
Firehouse.
property anyway, so
Right.
I mean,
Right.
that
That's
would be
probably
the
where it would be
ideal spot
located,
for it.
yeah, yeah.
And then would it continue, would it cross over,
But then it
or would
depends
it
how
go
much,
along, would it go along this side of the
it'll go on
left
this
side,
side,
or,
yeah,
yeah, on the opposite side?
yeah.
So they cross twice, they cross,
Well, it would stay on
they
the
cross
side.
Newton, then they cross over
Yes.
Meeting House.
Yeah,
Meeting
correct,
House,
And
yes.
they
Right.
pick it
You
up,
have
and
to.
then they cross
Correct.
again over here
That's correct, yeah,
to go down.
That's
So
correct,
three
yeah.
crossing.
Yep.
Right.
that's the idea.
Okay, next. More signs. Am I jumping ahead here?
Yeah.
Wayfinding signs.
We're currently doing some of the wayfinding signs here in town, the ones on the borders, actually, is we're putting together, to install. You've seen the ones that, as you come into town, some of the ones on the border, the green ones. And, also, the ones out here, that we've been here forever, the little tiny wooden ones, just to improve some of the signage. Just, we've gotten a lot of discussion at the selectmen's level, we've discussed it several times. So this is to fund that program.
How many signs does this represent, do you know?
You know, Betsy put this together, and I think it's for the
Okay.
Yeah,
entrance
these
to
are
the town
signs that
center.
are all different sizes, right? This is the one we looked at.
Yeah, right.
She had the summary.
Right, yeah,
And the study she did.
correct.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the one. And these are for all the signs to the entrances, to the town center, as it indicates, entrance to the business district and on town borders. So there's probably,
There was a wayfinding
Doesn't
initiative that took place, that included putting signs throughout the town with the intent of bringing, a specific identity to the town.
right,
And the thought was, Betsy did some work in terms of identifying the specific areas where the entrances. The study that was done included, the cost of those signs were quite significant, so she's identified, an alternative, to those signs that significantly less, and the thought was to start it at the entrances, so that at least people, when they enter town, and then from there we can expand beyond it. So that was, I recall that was a lot of what she was
she's
doing.
mentioned it's at the economic development too, correct? It's just come up at
It's,
economic
yes, it's
development,
at the EDC meeting,
Yeah.
she's been talking about it.
yeah. And she's also, looking for, sponsors. She mentioned that too,
Right.
for some of the
That's correct,
signs.
yeah, that's what she
Right.
said.
Yeah.
At some point with the hope is that, putting different sounds throughout the town, like we all see them when we go into different towns, it'll say, welcome to New Haven, it'll say,
Sponsored.
sponsored by,
Whatever.
and have a,
Yeah.
You
So
see 'em
those
in
folks are-
orange,
right.
actually.
Yeah.
Orange has
Yeah,
in Milford.
sponsorships under it.
right. So that's why this could change based on the number of sponsors and how much we get for each sign.
Okay.
Okay.
And last but not least,
To put it in here, it's just, cause this warrants some discussion on, you know,
do we have a
usage.
clue yet what we're gonna do with this building? I mean,
Not yet.
right.
It's on the agenda.
It's on the agenda for tomorrow, actually.
All right.
To decide, or
think
to
there is-
make a
Just to
committee?
talk.
No, to decide.
To decide.
But
Yeah,
but
when you say
everything
that we have
that's,
a clue, I'm sorry.
I was just-
No, you have a
everything
clue. I
that's
said,
here
is there
needs
a
to be
clue?
done regardless of the use, is that correct?
Right, but the use will help to
Yeah.
drive the design and more efficiently and the build, the construction more efficiently, depending on what you're gonna use it for.
And could potentially justify some of the costs.
Is the Amity situation still alive, or is that dead?
Still alive.
Still alive?
We're coming tomorrow night.
That's
Coming-
correct.
Amity is
somebody's coming
gonna-
tomorrow night.
Yeah,
looking to use it for a program they do, where they teach
Right.
But
students life skills.
Still discussed, yeah.
For the, kids.
Whether or not we do the renovations, or they do them, or whatever, but I guess that's to be talked about.
Disabled and stuff like that, if you wanted to.
Cause you know, a lot of, we hear a lot of talk about who's putting claims to, they want this there, they want that.
Right.
But nothing has been decided at this point.
Stuff like that.
I think there's more guidance needs to be provided
But
before
the
we go further.
bottom line is unless there's more money invested in it, nothing can be done.
That's true.
So,
So you will need to spend
Good point.
some money, that's true, yeah.
Okay. Anything else? All right. We will adjourn and we'll see you all Thursday.
Thank you.
Much more ambitious schedule Thursday.